let's go ahead and jump into the next segment of Nerd Nostalgia. We're going to talk about Ghostbusters 2. This is going to be a very fun debate. So, as we give you the summary here for Ghostbusters 2, after saving New York City from a ghost attack, the Ghostbusters, a team of spirit exterminators, is disbanded for demolishing parts of the city during the battle. But when the Ghostbusters Peter Venkman learns that spirits have taken an interest in his son, oh wow, they really rewrote this now. And Dana's son, the men launch a rogue ghost chasing mission. The quest quickly goes awry.
Not
goes awry.
Kid.
Again, I just corrected that. Can we get through the summary first here? And then quick goes awry, landing them in court. But when the ghosts turn on the judge, he issues an order allowing the Ghostbusters to get back to work. All right, so that is the summary here. So that makes me think, is there something written in the original script that probably would have linked Oscar to Venkman? But besides that, I'll jump off first on Ghostbusters 2. I will say this, Ghostbusters 2, when I first saw it as a kid, I absolutely loved it. I thought the scares and the horror on it is way higher than Ghostbusters 1. I think the laughs and the comedy lands a little flat in Ghostbusters 2. Like, I didn't laugh as much when I was a kid. It wasn't until I got older that I felt like I started feeling like Ghostbusters 2 wasn't a good movie. And when I say it wasn't a good movie, it's because I literally would watch it. Typically, like most of us, Ghostbusters 1 would come on TV, and Ghostbusters 2 would come on TV right after it. And watching it now where I had to split them, like I didn't watch them back to back, I just watched them whenever. Ghostbusters 2, it holds up very, very well. I think it's just a bad movie because 1 is so good, and then you watch 2 right after it, it feels like it loses something. Like, I don't know. I feel Ghostbusters 2 feels like a well-produced made movie. Well, Ghostbusters 1 feels more like freelance. And I think that's what it comes across in Ghostbusters 1, more hearty. Ghostbusters 2 comes across more heady. And I think that's the disconnect because, like we talked about it, Ghostbusters 1 is lightning in a bottle. Ghostbusters 2 is what typically Ghostbusters 1 should have been if lightning in a bottle didn't strike. Like, but I think we judge Ghostbusters 2 so harshly because 1 is so amazing. It's a lot to like in this movie. The big bad is way better in this movie than Gozer. The whole imagery that they have in this movie, Homeboy doing the cradle to go get Oscar, that's just terrifying as hell. Like you said, the headlights, the headlight eyes, terrifying as hell. Like, it is so many great horror moments in this movie that is extraordinary. I think part of it is that the comedy doesn't hit as hard and land as clean in this one as it did with 1. And I'll probably could chalk that up to, I think 1, Bill Murray improvised a lot more than he did in 2. I think 2, they probably had him in some kind of a little more smaller box and had him had to work out of that, which I think that's where some of it falls a little flat. Still, I think my funnest line in part 2 is when they're at Venkman's house, Dana and Oscar, and he's like, oh, she's like, oh, let me do it. And he's like, oh, she's like, oh, you want to put him down? He goes, yeah, I would love to put him down.
Oh,
in short. And I'm like, that's such a great joke. It's such a good joke.
Terrible burden on your mother.
Yes, it's such a good joke. And I'm like, but like, I feel like that joke is what's missing in the rest of the movie. Like, it doesn't, that joke felt almost natural. Like, that's something Peter Venkman would do. A lot of the jokes in there felt more like, this is something we're writing. Do, re, mi, Egon. Great line, but Egon so really wouldn't say that. But Egon really wouldn't say that, though. Well, he said it, so he does say it. Yeah, he said it, so he does.
And he
say
smiles
it,
too. It's like,
he knows he's making
a
joke.
But that's the point. Like, I don't think Egon makes that kind of joke. Yeah. Like, and it can just be my personal preference, but that's what I think what 2 suffers from. And I hate saying because which I'm reviewing 2. It's just 2 is a really strong movie that I think doesn't get enough credit for being that because 1 is, like we said, my review of 1 literally is a perfect movie except one thing. Like, like it's like doing Terminator and then you do Terminator 3. Terminator 3 isn't a terrible movie, but going after 1 and 2, it's a terrible movie. Like, it can't live up. There's nothing you can do about that. So I like Ghostbusters 2 a lot more watching and rewatching it than I think I've ever did in the last 20 years. And if you would ask me probably 2 days from now, and you'd be like, "Oh, what do you think about Ghostbusters 2?" And I'd be like, "Ugh, yuck." Now, if you ask me what do you think about Ghostbusters 2, I'm gonna be like, "It's a good movie, man. It's a really good movie that just I think is undervalued."
Completely full circle. You're like,
yeah.
And now you're like, all right, again.
Yeah. It's a good movie, man. Jason, your thoughts on Ghostbusters 2?
2 words: Bobby Brown.
No, I guess we're gonna.
In my mind, and maybe other people might think this as well, but for me, one of the most iconic scenes of the Ghostbusters franchise is when they fight the Scarelli brothers in the courthouse. Like, that to me is like, that's Ghostbusters right there to me, right?
You need more of that.
They do need more. The thing I like about this movie is they do actually do a lot of ghost busting. They have that montage after they're back to actually show them actually ghost busting. They actually show ghosts and they actually bust them to the
and it shows them being flexible with their tech when the ghost is levitating all the crystal and they set up like 4 traps on tripods and they're putting them together.
Yeah, and they're linking them together and they're doing all sorts of things that, sometimes they're just sitting out there waiting for the ghost to pass with their jogger ghost and just hitting the trap and he just runs right in the trap. I love the line "Do Re Egon." For me, since I was a second grader when seeing that, I've always loved that line. It's so dumb. But it's always resonated with me. Winston gets to do a lot more in this movie, not as much as the rest, but still a lot more. He's still like kind of not in it until like the second half of the movie, but still he gets a lot more moments to shine in this one.
Sure.
Yeah, it's, as Jason said, like a lot of people like hate on this movie, but I just watched this on Friday and it's just like the first. It still holds up. It's more of the stuff that you liked. It's a little bit scarier in my opinion. Like those visuals, oh man, especially when Ray turns into fucking where Vigo possesses Ray and his face is all fucked up. That was scary, but then it was like afterwards they hose him down and he's hugging everybody. It's like, oh, all we need is a little bit of positivity and that will save the day. It's a good movie. It's a good movie. And I think the reason why that it's not as funny as the original one is because a lot of the dialogue, the stuff that Pete Venkman was saying was written for Eddie Murphy. And now I bet they've written this one for Bill Murray. And so it's more of Bill Murray's style rather than Eddie Murphy's style. And maybe it's a little bit more drier than what the original was.
Well, yeah,
so
I mean,
maybe that's just a theory for me.
Yeah, maybe you let Bill Murray in the first one kind of go. The character isn't defined yet, so you kind of let him do his thing, and he sticks to the script a bit, and he riffs a bit, but that when they start the production on the second one, Bill Murray's character Pete Venkman is now an established character, so now they have rules essentially that
also the fact that this movie was also after. So they did the first movie and then they did the cartoon series and then they did this movie and they know that this movie has to capture the child fan base, that they want. So it has to tone down some of the more sexually explicit jokes that Peter Venkman would say a little bit, You didn't have, Thorazine to date rape his
did not have any date rape drugs on this time.
But Tully was still fucking in that movie.
Holy fucks.
100%.
They included more Slimer, which, being a fan of the cartoon, I always enjoyed seeing. I was like, oh, Slimer, yay!
He got bigger, which I liked.
Yeah,
so gluttonous spirit. So,
but yeah, like the reason why there was not a third movie after this has always baffled me. It's baffled me because, I've always wanted a sequel to this movie. But we know the reason why there wasn't ever a sequel because Bill Murray just didn't want to do another one. He was not interested in it.
Yeah, he said the script never.
Yeah. Happened. So, but it was always a disappointment that there's nothing following this. So, but I enjoyed this movie. I enjoyed it. I loved it. Watched it again on Friday, and it was great. Still,
yeah.
My baby mom was like, "Why are you laughing so hard?" I'm like, "Because it's just funny."
Before we get to you, Jaron, we'll take a quick ad break here.
Ad break.
All right, Jaron, go ahead and tell us your thoughts on Ghostbusters 2.
It is there are worse movies out there. like a lot of worse movies. There's worse sequels out there, like a lot of worse sequels. It felt the same reason for the same reason of certain sequels. This felt too samey. They didn't need to walk the Statue of Liberty down the road to be the equivalent of the Stay Puft. Like they didn't need a giant thing at the end to make it feel like it was a Ghostbusters thing. The same thing 2016 did it too. They did the big ghost thing that they shot in the dick. Like that doesn't make a ghost. That means you're missing the point of what a Ghostbusters movie is. There doesn't have to be a giant thing that they face for it to be a Ghostbusters game or movie, or you know what I'm saying, or story, which I think was evident in Afterlife. I thought that was great. That being said, best montage of the two. Great song. I love Ecto 1A. It is my favorite Ecto 1.
It's more detailed and shinier and stuff.
I'm so sad that one didn't end up in the farmhouse in the in Afterlife with all the yellow and green and orange lights on it and shit. I thought that was wild. And definitely could tip over. I swear to God, that thing got up on two wheels in that one of those turn sequences in the montage. I like that Winston had more to do. I think my favorite line from it is when they're in the courtroom and the prosecutor's like, "Can you tell me why you and your partners decided to take it upon yourself to dig a very large hole in First Avenue?" And he just looks at her and he goes, "Well, ma'am, there's so many holes in First Avenue. We really didn't think anyone would notice."
Dude,
And like
speaking
the
of
whole
that
crowd
prior
laughs,
scene
too.
where they're digging the hole and they just keep like fucking putting on their best New York accents, like, "I got 10 wires of cable I gotta pull." It's I like that part. But anyway, go on. I'm sorry.
No, that's great. Yeah. No, it's a good movie, and it did. I think I had the same kind of seismograph is of liking it versus disliking it as Jason. Obviously, I loved it as a kid because Ghostbusters. Then I started to be a little more critically minded about movies, especially movies that I knew that I enjoyed, and I kind of cooled off on it a bit. And I guess maybe now it's been around so long. It's from such a long time ago, and it's kind of come back around for me. Of the two, obviously one is still the best, but it is it's I have a much fonder recollection, and watching it again, I enjoyed it more than I thought I would recently. So, yeah,